So hi guys, and welcome back to Overtime Heroics MMA. I'm joined today by Guy Ramsay, the head coach of the Griphouse. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We'll also answer to Gav because most people have called me that for most of my life.
All right, aye, Gav. I like that. But I like Guy as well. But the name is quite original. I quite like it.
My parents have a sense of humour. I always remember the song called "A Boy Called Sue," and I don't think they were far off it with we call him the guy. Learn how to fight.
That's true. It probably made you into the guy you are today.
Do you know what? I might have done.
So just to kick us off, Guy, what's been the biggest impacts of like being a gym owner and coach during lockdown or during COVID? Sorry.
I guess you're kind of two different roles there. As a gym owner, as a business owner, it's been an absolute nightmare. Fortunately, I think most gyms are kind of like this. The only reason we've survived has been the goodwill of the members that have managed to still chip in like a monthly fee to keep us going, or the occasional, thanks to the online class, here's a PayPal for it. So financially, it's been really hard. Like most of the coaches have ended up having to get, everybody's gone off and got different jobs. Like I've been banging out axe throwing stuff. One of the guys delivery driver, one of the guys have gone back to being a joiner again. You know, it's just everybody's had to kind of literally find ways of making money that we suddenly stopped making. You know, like the gym people are all right, but see the coaches that are just doing like one-to-ones, when that got binned, they literally went from earning all right to like nothing, like literally overnight. It was a hell of a position to be in. So at the gym owner side of it, we're surviving and we will survive, but it's down to the goodwill of the members, half of which are grapplers. We need to put this into context as well. We've got a big striking community and a big grappling community. The only people that have been able to use anything in the gym within the last year have been the striking community. But we still have grapplers going, well, do you know what? I need the Griphouse to be there when this is all done, when this kind of current shitstorm is over. And the ones that have been furloughed that still had a bit of income coming in have kept it going. And we cannot thank them enough. That's the only reason we're here. We're not here because of government help, because that basically goes to the landlords pretty much straight away as the rent money. In fact, I think the landlords are probably the only ones making money out of COVID. Yeah. But don't start. Don't start. Right, that's the gym owner, but that's the business side of it. As a coach, do you know what? Where I get caught out is I thought we were safe from automation, robots, technology. You know, you're always going to need another human being in front of you, working with you, prepared to drill with you, prepared to bleed a little, sweat a little. I never saw it the other way around, that something biological, like a virus, could take that away from us.
Yeah.
So very quickly had to make the jump to technology. Zoom. I mean, it was the joke, like, oh my God, it only took like Apocalypse to get Guy on Instagram. I'm the old guy at the gym. Now, that's not a reason for not embracing the tech. But I'm a hands-on coach. I'm not a digital coach. And I had to rethink and relearn that very, very quickly, so that our members were still getting decent input and output from me as a coach, and to help let the other coaches kind of do that kind of stuff as well. So it was a pretty quick transition. We started doing Facebook was like the easiest platform to use, the live stuff, because people are like, oh, why aren't you charging for this? And it's like, well, some of our members have been all right, but some of our long-term guys, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their income, they've had to cancel their subs. I'm not going to put a little closed group. No, only people that pay for this can get it. It's like, that's not how we work. So we put out these FP live classes, which were, I think, sensationally awful when we first started. And then I think started to get a little bit better as I got more confident doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. At least you get you to talk to, whereas when you're doing the FP live thing, you'd be like nobody to talk to. You're just in your driveway feeling like a complete idiot, with a young team driving past shouting and bawling at you. But yeah, coaching wise, it's been really, really hard. I don't think you can make significant, like meaningful improvements by video link. You can do a little bit. Again, the problem being a hands-on coach rather than maybe a visual coach. Visual coaches have probably done a little bit better in that. So one of the things we did was we started getting our members, like, even if you're just shadow boxing, stick your camera on, send us clips of what you're doing, and we'll critique it, you know, and then send the clip once you've had a chance to try and embellish it. So about 10, 15 people started doing that regularly, and there was progress, which gave me more faith in like, oh, here, wait, no, you can actually do this. However, it's a fight sport. You need somebody standing in front of you.
Yeah.
Or whatever, but you need somebody there. Otherwise, it's not real. It's 10, 20% of what we actually do, and that other 80% is not getting taken care of.
Because you touched on them a wee bit at the start there, and it was your coaches, and it just got me thinking, see like the coaches that do like the one-to-one with the personal training, have they received any kind of support from the government? Or
most of them no.
No.
Most of them know, because I think if you'd only been like kind of self-employed coaching for like under a year or a bit, I don't think you get any help at all.
Right.
And then it's the usual vibe. A lot of guys are coaching one-to-one. They're flying by night. You know, they're under the radar, and ultimately you pay a price for being under the radar. Unfortunately, that's just the way society works, and that's a different argument, I guess. Debate. We were fortunate in that we had enough coming in from our members to try and keep some of the coaches that were really struggling, like just kind of above the breadline, if you like.
Yeah.
Not much, but enough so that at least they're not going hungry. You know, it got to that like crazy stage. But again, most of them subsequently found other forms of work. But there was that kind of first couple of months period of like, is this going to be over in 3 weeks? And like, here we are a year later, still talking about it. So, yeah, everyone's beginning to kind of relax up a bit. So fingers crossed we're getting back on. It's been important to me as a boss that I don't break the rules, the guidelines.
Yeah.
But I totally appreciate some people are put into an awful situation of that money to zero overnight. They needed to do something. So the outdoor stuff's been brilliant. It's been wet, it's been freezing cold, it's been all these things. And then it's funny because we got this assumption that martial arts is an indoor sport. Where did that come from? Used to fight outside all the time. You know, you'll play shinty and you'll smash people with a stick. You'll play rugby and you'll bounce somebody into the turf. You'll play football and you'll header them when nobody's looking. You know, we're used to kind of fighting outdoors. So a lot of people have actually really enjoyed the experience of training outdoors. Obviously, you need to be careful if you're on tarmac. Well, let's not be sweeping anyone. But there's been pluses and minuses. I'm trying to find silver linings here, man.
Because talking about silver linings, is there any techniques that you've learned over the last 12 months, like maybe coaching styles that you'll look to implement once things start to kind of normalise again?
Yes and no. Again, I'm quite that kind of hands-on coach. I'd rather feel somebody hitting or feel somebody moving.
Yeah.
Like pads or drills or sparring, rather than just like visually like watch. So I've had to work in that game. What I have found is I think I've got better at identifying things that can be fixed with one condition rather than 2 or 3 or 4 conditions. Like you may see X, Y, and Z wrong.
Right, okay.
Trying to fix X, Y, and Z, you're like, oh, they all add up to like, or could be fixed by A or B, or just A. That kind of thing. So again, that like doing the visual critique on the videos forced me to start looking for stuff that maybe I wasn't looking for before. I think as well, because as a coach, you spend so much time in front of somebody, you don't get that perspective as much. Yeah. And again, that's something I now need to know that I need to change. I don't need to be this hands-on guy the whole time. I actually need to be sitting back and watching that profile going on. In terms of other techniques like life stuff, patience.
That's always a good one, patience, because that's something that COVID's kind of made us be. It's made us be patient to wait till everything kind of opens back up again. I think more folk will start living in the moment rather than putting things off sort of idea.
Yeah. Well, you hope so. You know, like if there's been, for all the fight community, if there's been a real thing, it's like, you know, we can't actually take this for granted. Like fighting's been around for the last 40,000 years. We thought it would always be here, and then suddenly, well, wait a minute, somebody's this has just been taken away from us. So hopefully people come into it like valuing it. Like even like when we had that brief kind of interlude from between the lockdowns, and we had people back in the gym like just doing like kind of bag work and stuff. There's people coming up the stairs and greeting because they were back, and you kind of forget the impact that this has been having on people. Just we need this. Like, our species needs this. The people that found fighting as their big out, this is how they deal with the stuff that's going on in here and here. They found their way out of it, and it's fighting. So yeah, let's not take it for granted that they can't get taken away from us again, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's that way as well. I was thinking about some of the online videos you've done on your Instagram, and it seems that it was when you were doing with the clinch, like, to throw a kick after you're coming out of the clinch, like the kind of the leg movement, and it seemed like just putting that wee bit of info on Instagram, like that's helped a lot more people than what it would in the gym as well, because people out with the gym will then see that and then they'll get that bit of knowledge as well. So I think that's where your kind of online training has been really helpful to a lot of people.
But it's been cool as well, because I was actually talking to an actual teacher about it, and they've got a thing called flipped learning, where they actually, what I was doing a session, then going, oh, here, I need to do a breakdown on that. Right, I'll put a breakdown on that tomorrow. Whereas he was saying, like, we've got this style called flip learning, whereas you know what you're doing for the main class. If there's something that needs broken down, do it first. Let them absorb that little kind of micro bit of information that is then going to completely affect the rest of the session. So rather than somebody then going, I didn't really get that bit with a heel turn on the bridge when you're holding in the clinch or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll do a breakdown on it, rather than I should have done the breakdown before you do the actual main bit of the class. So things like that were kind of interesting. And I didn't realize that the education, like school education and stuff's actually been kind of moving that way as well. So it's been interesting, like swaps of ideas and stuff.
Yeah. Because how's it been, like, because obviously Reese fought, was it September Reese fought last? How was it cornering and like preparing like a fighter with no fans?
So Dean and Cameron, basically because I was getting a test for COVID, Dean and Cameron, Dean always corners Reese, and I'm there when I can be there. If I'm not out with the Thai crew, then I'm there for Reese. Reese's mindset's incredibly strong. Now, yes, he gets some buzz from the crowd, but see, once he's actually in the cage, he's no longer even conscious of the crowd. Yeah, he's just like that. There's the challenge there. The opponent. Yeah, he's not getting residual energy off a crowd, because he's past that stage now. He's in there to do the best he can against that one other person, and the only concern is that one other person. So I think most internally motivated people will thrive with or without a crowd. How it feels when you win and you get that, oh, hey, all that kind of stuff, that's different. Right. But again, a pro athlete learns to see what that is and be able to deal with it. But again, whether it's there or not. So they all said it was just very, very weird walking out to like literally nothing. But if you've ever fought away from home, it's kind of like that sometimes. Anyway, like we even had fighters in New York one time, and they were like, we thought, oh, we'll get the big Scottish welcome off the New Yorkers. Man, you could have heard a pin drop. Oh, wait, from Scotland, please welcome. Shit, this is the longest, loneliest walkout we've ever done. So yeah, it's not the first time there's been like dead silence. I think you can hear your corner really well, so that's handy. You can also hear the other guy's corner really well, which can be handy as well. If you've got like Xbox fighters that basically just perform what their corner tell them to do, if you can sink into their, assuming you're speaking the same language, you can pretty much sink into their advice on top of theirs. Now, the old plan of get the guy into your corner without a crowd there to muffle all the noise is not as relevant anymore. Obviously, you can hear your guys more clearly, but you can still hear what's going on the other side of the cage.
So as a coach, how do you try and combat that? Like, do you need to come up, like Mark Henry's a great example of this. He uses a lot of code words to kind of reduce that. Is that something that we're going to be seeing more, but kind of after COVID, people getting used to using codes, so but the other corner, the other team, they don't know what they're saying?
I tend not to use codes for specific combinations or stuff like that, because the corner's seeing something very slightly different from the fighter. What I do is I use a kind of like green light system. So if I need a go, we've already been drilling the shit out of whatever go is. And I realize it's like, this is now time to put the pressure on. And in this fight, we plan to put the pressure on. this way. Okay, we're basically going to like kind of like just like run, blast, and shoot, or just start hammering kicks, and whatever the goal would be for a specific opponent. So we'll use that kind of like, there's a green light, boom, go. We've got nicknames for some stuff.
Yeah.
But if you haven't drilled the shit of it, then under pressure, it's never going to come out anyway. So I think if you've got a big, it's like the Hong Kong Book of Kung Fu, like Hong Kong Fu. He's always looking at his big list of stuff and he never gets anything done, and the cat jumps in and solves it. You kind of need your fighter to be more like the cat, unless like Hong Kong Fu, he's just drilled the shit out of it so he knows. And if he's getting the go kind of idea, like we use other stuff as well, but it's top secret. Then we'll kind of use that kind of idea. Although the best corner advice I remember hearing, particularly with Reese, was touch his guard and knee him to the ceiling. So you don't really need code word for that. And he did exactly that. Very much.
Because to come back to Reese, Reese was talking about his kind of mindset before the fight and how he didn't find it very strange because he had visually, mentally prepared himself for that moment and how that moment was going to be. Is that something you try to deploy on your guys quite a bit, to kind of be mentally envision how it was going to be?
Yeah, you've got to see the fight happening. You've got to see your walkout happening. You've got to see your changing room happening. Anything that's unfamiliar on the day can put you off your stride. So, like we used to practice, like before we even had a cage, when we still had the rings, we would practice literally walking from the door across the mat and getting over those ropes into the ring and going to your corner. And we'd do it over and over again. It's just as much a bit of practice as all the pad work, all the drilling, all the sparring. Because if you get rattled at that stage, a lot of your training is going to start falling down. Like the foundation needs to be there for every aspect. It's like, train me a gum shield in. Don't leave it to sparring or fight night to put a gum shield in, because it's something different. Or wear a groin guard. Wear a groin guard. So that in fight night, it's not, oh God, I'm not used to this. It's irritating. You've got enough like kind of adrenaline in your system. You don't want additional irritants or things that you hadn't thought about. So yeah, you need to see the fight happening. Obviously, opponent research helps in that. So in the more novice level amateur stuff, that's really hard. You don't know what you're getting, but you still look to your fighter to cover all the things that are knowable, which is the walkout, the idea that, dude, you're walking out in a complete silence here, or you're walking into a really hostile crowd, but all that is energy, and it's up to you whether you want to suck it up or keep it at bay. You know, these things are super important.
Because just to kind of go off a wee bit, it's you do a lot of the more traditional martial arts. I've seen that because it was just after the last lockdown. I think some of the only classes you could run was the kind of sword fighting type classes. Does doing the traditional martial arts like that, does that help bring in guys who otherwise would never step foot in a martial arts gym because it's a different lure to them?
It's actually been quite funny in a way. I think my mission was to, I guess, kind of try and get people's heads around the fact that this isn't some kind of geeky Dungeons and Dragons live action roleplay thing. It's fighting. Like, you get hurt doing it. You know, like there's a pain thing, there's a skill thing, there's a fatigue thing. It's all the things that fighting is. And as much as it's kind of divvied into a little kind of different periods of history of learning this stuff, and you can see the evolution of like swordplay from like it's pretty much chronicled from roughly the 1400s. People started writing very, very full-on instruction manuals on how to fight. It's more systemized than like all the kung fu and all the karate and all these kind of ancient martial arts. Like we were writing this stuff down 600 years ago, and you can see the evolution through all the treatises that got in. What we did find is when I replaced 2 of the morning, I did it deliberately, 2 of the morning Thai boxing sessions, but all the MMA guys, they come to get their striking in. The Thai boxers are there, was like, you know what, I'm just going to run a couple of these medieval sessions. Just give people a change, because there's only, at the time, there's only so much shadow boxing in the circuits you can actually do before everybody goes mad. But this actually gave us a chance to get back into contact, because it was like 2 meter distance. You got a meter long arm and a meter long chib, for want of a better word. And I think just the relief of being able to hit again and be hit fighting's only distance, timing, and a weapon set. That's all it is. There's nothing else in fighting. So if you understand the weapon, and it's either fists or legs or knees or grappling, or you add in like a 1 meter long stick, sword, edged thing to that, it's still down to distance and timing, right? And keeping your eyes open to see stuff. So everybody jumped on it, and the class started getting busier and busier, and more people were like, oh my God, this is actually like a fight. It's like, it's a bona fide fight sport. Whether you do it in armor, like the crazy, like medieval crew, or you do it as like the kind of Highland broadsword stuff, which is less armor, so it hurts more. That makes sense. It's a fight. So it's a legit fight sport in its own right.
That actually makes a lot of sense now you're saying it, because my impression of it would be a lot of the guys that are into like the cosplay and they like to go out at the weekends and that's the kind of stuff they do. I thought they would jump on that, but because the Muay Thai classes, the boxing classes weren't contact, it does sound like a great way for guys to release energy. So yeah, it does make sense. It was a lot of
when we first started the whole medieval kind of thing. Initially, the first couple of weeks, it was all the kind of cosplay people coming, but we were just running the sessions like a regular fight class, and within like a minute, they were like, "I'm done," or "Ow, this hurts," or like, "Oh, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as this." And you're like, "Well, we said we were going to do this. We'd do it properly. We're going to do this like we do Muay Thai, BJJ, and MMA. Like we're not here just to like dick around and like cast spells or swish at each other. It's like it's a fight sport. You can compete in it. Like we've had folk competing in before lockdown." Over in Ukraine, like Poland, also down in England. It's a big scene. Yeah. It's probably better than organising half the blanket Muay Thai shows in the world.
So what impacts has that mixed martial arts had on your life?
Oh, huge. For a start, I answered a lot of questions. I think, again, because I'm a wee bit older than a lot of the other guys, I went through the 100% traditional route, getting to karate. Thought it was the bee's knees, thought it was amazing. Why did I think that? Well, because my sensei told me so. And he looked amazing doing what he was doing. And then the biggest lesson I had was having trained in traditional martial arts for about 4 years. I had a kind of friendly spar that got out of hand with a guy that had been doing Muay Thai for 6 months. And it was four like hard years of training against 6 months. And the Muay Thai guy was like totally holding his own. I was like, oh shit, like I need to look at evidence. Muay Thai gave me the first evidence, and that was the start of the journey in MMA. It was like what else is going on in the world? And then obviously 1993 happened. Yeah. And everything changed. Everything changed. People wanted evidence. People wanted validity in their fight systems. BJJ, wrestling, Muay Thai, boxing, Kyokushin karate were training like proper fight sports. Nobody else was. We thought we were, but we were. Even the Muay Thai in the UK was kind of slightly skewed, because you went to Thailand, you're like, this is a different sport they're doing here. We were really just doing like a kind of glorified kickboxing. It was cool. It was good. But then it was over here. It was just a fight. We didn't know there was like scoring systems and like ways to win that didn't involve just trying to knock somebody out or stop with low kicks. So yeah, it just all changed. And then in terms of life opportunities, when me and Paul McVeigh got together and went, let's do it. Let's just open our own gym. Sick of training at sports centres or health clubs and dodgy community halls with gangsters like gunning you over in the crossfire and all that. Yeah. We'll get our own place. And it just kind of mushroomed. It was like we had the fight team. It was like the Crucible of the DNFT at the time. So the Dumbarton guys were coming in. James would be bringing his Lanark guys coming in. And the grip just grew out of that, like kind of little furnace of people discovering MMA and just going for it. Like nobody was doing MMA for a hobby. People were doing MMA because they wanted to fight and they wanted to be in the UFC or the WEC at the time, obviously for the lighter guys. Or it was just guys that just wanted to fight and not get arrested. A few of them. So yeah, life changer. To be at the start of that kind of revolution, and then watch it grow, arms and legs, and all sorts, has just been absolutely brilliant.
Because is the sport even recognisable to you now compared to when you started?
No, Not at all. I was actually having a conversation with Reese the other night. So we're working some footwork stuff. And when I'm coaching the MMA guys, I'm not making them do Muay Thai.
Yeah.
But I'm also very aware when I'm coaching Muay Thai, I need to do Muay Thai. The footwork system's so different now. Whereas I think probably the last guy to credibly use Muay Thai footwork, if you like, was probably Shogun Rua. So we're going that far back, if you like. Yeah. I think he was the last guy just to plod and stalk and still be able to deal with it. Nobody else can do that. You can't do that in MMA anymore. You know, your hips are gone, your legs are gone. The guy's in and out before you can tag him. It's a totally different game. Totally different game.
So you kind of spoke about it a wee bit there. What use the D unit and higher level use formed like the Dinky Ninja fight team. How important was that for you, like starting out, to have that essential alliance with other gyms in the area?
Huge, because there was a will to work so hard to improve each other. It was just absolutely massive. I mean, I remember, because it's still quite young, although the UFC was 1993, like MMA didn't really become a thing, but we're still talking about like Pancras and No Holds Barred, Vale Tudo, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously in 2000, that began to change. I mean, I remember putting on a show in 2004 and Paul and James had become like the staple entertainment now. It's like, oh, they're going to do an MMA demo, which is basically just them throwing everything in the kitchen, flying arm bars and all sorts at each other. And people were just like, oh my God, what is that? Like, what is this? And it's like, it's 2004. Why don't people know what this is? But you forget, it's like, it's been that fast since then. It just went huge. So when the DNFT was basically that core group, I was always like, I never competed in MMA, so I'm not taking any credit for doing any part of that. I've always just been there to help with the striking and there to get the gym up and running and make it work. Well, I was the guy that had to sign the lease. I was the responsible party. And Paul moved away to BJJ land. It was kind of weird. The Griphouse went through a kind of strange phase of all of a sudden, like, our entire pro team decided to stop and retire or move to BJJ or like move out of Glasgow, and it was like this critical mass kind of went, ah. So James had his core and a few of our folk went off to higher level. Again, because the core of pro athletes is what attracts other pro athletes. So it's been like a long haul building the grip kind of not back up, but back to kind of where we were. But those original days of the three groups getting together as DNFT was, I think, probably the most important thing that happened in Scottish MMA, like without a doubt. It became the benchmark, became the team to beat. Everybody loves having a swipe at the DNFT at the time because we were ahead of everybody. And we were ahead of everybody because there was a willingness to put all our collective egos, all those years of traditional training, more modern training, put it away and go, right, what have you got? Well, what have I got? Let's do this. And a lot was done through very, very, very hard, poorly educated sparring to find out what worked and what didn't work, because we didn't have any other outlet. You were lucky to get a show like maybe every 6 months. And then all of a sudden that started to mushroom, and it was the competitive edge started to allow us to be a little more conservative with our own sparring, because we could actually just get guys out fighting rather than have to fight in the gym the whole time. Like some of the, like Friday night at the Griphouse became this kind of legendary night where people are sitting in their cars psyching themselves up. Right, it's Friday night, right, up the stairs, right, off we go. You know, it was an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah, because that's really interesting to hear with the type of affiliation, and it's always kind of puzzled me now how that isn't more prevalent in Scottish martial arts. Because when I was talking to James Doolan the other day, he was like kind of laying out where Scotland is in the martial arts scale, and we are still behind like England, Ireland, and Wales are now starting to pull ahead a wee bit. So do you feel it'd be better if like more of the big gyms in this country done that and more tried to pull together to kind of be the banner of like Scottish MMA rather than individual tribalism?
I think individual tribalism kind of sums up Scottish culture. Yeah, there's a cultural problem with that. It's like, what street are you from? What team are you with?
Yeah,
You know, it's like
absolutely.
we've all grown up with it, and there is that. I think as well, there's a certain, I don't know, paranoia of coaches that they don't even want one of their guys to go to like a open sparring session. Because, but what if he goes there and what if he really likes what they do and what if he doesn't come back and all the work I've put in? And, you know, you get that kind of stuff. I mean, we've lost people to other gyms, we've gained people from other gyms, so I see it kind of happening all the time. And with kind of older wisdom, you just realize people migrate ultimately to where they feel they're going to get the best, and there's nothing you can do about it other than try and give them the best of you as a coach. So I've totally gone off the head here. There's that coffee kicking in. It's just a bit of a brain cell exploded in the inside of my head there.
No, I think you did. I think you did sum up the question quite well there, to be fair.
Oh yeah, so yeah, tribalism. I think the problem is when we're fighting each other in local competitions, it does generate that them and us feel.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't particularly want one of my guys to train somewhere else, pick up something really cool, then injure the guy from that guy's team that he's fighting next using something he's picked up there. You know, there's lots of little kind of weird things like that going on. At the pro level, I think it's different. I think pro stuff needs to be a lot more united. You know, like Reese will go train with the higher level boys. Like Scott's got his guys that will come down. I think at the pro level, the only way we're really going to be able to push people is if the pros, regardless of affiliation, are training together. Not all the time, just some of the time would be very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
I think there'll always be martial arts are full of really paranoid people. There'll always be people worried that they're going to lose a student. But I think if you're going to lose a student, you're probably going to lose them anyway. So at least you're not doing any more hard work with them than if they're going to go somewhere else because they prefer that vibe or whatever. But I think, yeah, at pro level, I've always kind of upheld that. Yeah, go train with them. They've got an open sparring session, brilliant, go. And then have like a good kind of, right, well, I was good at this. I found I was struggling with this. And the problem is in the gym, you get symmetrical with the people you know. I know what you do, you know what I do. We're going to throw the same shit as each other that we normally throw, and we just neutralize each other. I don't know how important was that as a training session? Not very. Whereas you take yourself out of your comfort zone, go to somebody else's gaff, or they come to you. Yes, it's always a little harder in terms of like point to prove. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, there is a point to prove. I think you get a lot more as a pro out of those kind of sessions. The same like the old interclubs when people used to do it.
Yeah.
Old COVID, it's only a year. Interclubs, probably one of the most important things you can do. Going back to talking about visualizing competition. See if you haven't done an interclub. I don't think you get any right going to compete for the first time.
No, I agree with that. Sure.
For you or not. And again, getting like a decent interclub structure back up and running would be one of my first go-tos to get people back into a semi-competitive environment to prep up for hopefully the abundance of shows that are going to erupt.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Because that's it as well. Some of the most kind of successful guys at the moment in Scottish MMA, they like to go around all the gyms, because a good example of that's like Chris Duncan. But Chris Duncan, he likes to just take bits of information for all these different gyms, and it works for him. And it's the same way as Scott Malone as well, because he's quite prone for doing that. So there's proof in the pudding.
100%. Like you still need a coach to direct you.
Yeah.
But one of the things a coach should be directing you to do as a pro is go do a session with them. Go do a session with them. And then we come back, and because the coach knows you way better than the other guys do or the other coaches do, then you can work out, right, after that session, what do you need to work on? What do we need to be doing here to make you better? That's open-minded coaching. That's super important. And I think your athlete probably feels better that they can do that without having to do it like kind of almost like a wee bit under the radar. I think you need to be really open at the pro level, particularly. There's not, so when Whiteford went off to American Top Team, 99% of his sparring partners here breathed a heavy sigh of relief, because he's at that level that even when he's controlling his power, he's breaking people. You know, so he needed to be surrounded by 20 other dudes that could handle him, like manhandle him, like with his judo background, apart from anything else, apart from his striking. He was an absolute handful. And if you've not got a team around him that can deal with that, then he's not getting better. So yeah, can we get him to the UFC? Yes. Can we sustain him there without other pro help? No, probably not. So off he goes to ATT. Totally support the decision to do it. I'm surrounded by 20 to 30 contracted UFC fighters every single day for training, which at that level is kind of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, James has got way more pro guys at higher level at the moment. So he's got that pro bubble that can keep all his guys ticking over. So when Reese gets the invite to go there, hell yeah, dude, off you go. Go do this stuff. Same with Scott coming down, same with Chris Duncan moving around. Ross Houston as well. All these guys, you can't be. Scotland's really bad for this big fish, wee pond. Your pro career is going to really struggle if you don't mess up with the bigger, better potential.
Because just to kind of wrap the interview up a wee bit, where do you see the Griphouse in 5 to 10 years' time?
Oh, I'm going to sell it off to a money launderer and retire. Open a wee cabin in the Highlands and sell firewood. That's only partially true. I don't know, dude. Man, the first 2 years is going to be gym recovery. Yeah. Recover the fight teams, the Muay Thai and the MMA, recover that. Gaz and Paul will be recovering the BJJ side of things. Cammy and Kieran will be recovering the wrestlers. We need to recover as a team, because the team ultimately is the beating heart of your facility. It doesn't matter if a whole bunch of people who come don't fight. They're there because you do have a bunch of people who do fight, and they validate everything they do. So if they're doing the same training as somebody who's winning world titles, then that validates their experience for them. It's super important that the fight team remains the beating heart of what we do. Otherwise, I think what we've got is something a little bit empty. So yeah, fight team recovery, getting people back out on shows, getting them working together again. And it's doing what we can in the pro sense to try and keep as you said, the alliance. It's a good word to use. The alliances going to make MMA in Scotland better as a national thing, better, not a local thing, but a national thing.
Because I was thinking this as well, when you were saying about what fighters that are going to be winning world championships. I think one of the ones who looks really likely to do that is Rhys McEwen. Do you feel that Rhys McEwen could be that big name for your gym that brings people to the Griphouse?
Yeah, in the same way, Paul McVeigh, 3-time Cage Warrior champion. That's why Rhys started training.
Yeah, Rhys was telling me that actually.
And then also like Jojo coming through the ranks, Whiteford coming through the ranks. They do serve as like big beacons of, particularly when we're looking for evidence-based training, rather than like kind of kung fu mysticism. There is a named fighter from that gym. I am going to that gym because of that. It's super important. Can Rhys do it? Yeah, I think he can. You never know what's in the way of any career development. This is not just fighting; anything can happen. But if you've got a guy like Rhys and you look at I've always thought you've got 10 boxes. I don't even know what these boxes are, really. You've got 10 boxes, and most good fighters can tick 7 out of 10 of them and still achieve great things because they work hard. And then you've got the guys that start ticking the 8, 9, 10 box. Fudge is what Rhys is one of those guys. He's the big I've ticked the boxes. I'm here for this. This is my thing. He can make it 100% his. He can own the fight game in the UK. No problem. I've got so much confidence in him and his bubble of people that he's got around him.
Do you feel that's one of the most important parts to kind of make it, as you need those right people around about you to help steer you to make the right choices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though because of the bubble thing, I've I say hi to Reese because I'm coaching outdoors at the moment, so I say hi to Reese. He's away with the pros. But every week we have a sit down chat of, right, here's stuff I was working on, here's stuff I'm doing on. Like we talk about technical stuff, talk about mindset stuff, all this kind of thing. He's so open. You know, he's still like, there's a young side of him that's got that sponge-like mentality of he just absorbs stuff, and he kind of gets it. Like you show him something once, even if it's a timing thing, and he's kind of like, got it. You're like, wow, how do you do that? It took me years. He's got that going on. But yeah, you can't do this. This is not a sport you can do alone. It's impossible. You can't do it, I think, with just a coach either. You need your team. You need coaches who are good at different things, or just see different things from a slightly different perspective. You need that around you. And then ultimately, you need the phone call from the promoter wanting you on the show, and that's sometimes the hardest bit. You know, like McGregor pulled the Irish card brilliantly. Like if it was American and he pulled the stuff he'd done, he'd just be seen as a total asshole. If it was Scottish, he'd have just looked really bitter. But he's Irish, so he kind of got away with it to an extent. And he is a brilliant fighter, but there's probably quite a few other brilliant fighters there that just never got the call because they never got. There's another box to tick. They never pushed that side of it. And against back to that, there's so many people. It doesn't matter how good you are, if you're not going to get the phone call from the promoter, you've not got your manager, your coach really pushing you to get on the decent shows. What are you going to do?
Because that's quite interesting that you say that, and I think that's one of the things that Reese is probably doing really well now. He's marketing himself really well. Let's see, his coffee, he's got the t-shirts and that as well, and that kind of stuff, especially at local level, that will help him sell a lot more tickets than some of the other guys, and that could be what gets you there.
One of the things with the whole ticket sales thing was talking to this with one of the guys this morning. He was like, so what happens is when you have your first fight, you sell like hundreds of tickets, and the promoters are like, oh, this guy sells hundreds of tickets. But then what they forget is half those people have now seen you do your thing, but they're not really into it. So you only sell 50 the next time. And then you realise you've spent 3 or 4 years now in the gym honing your craft, and you've got 9 mates left. Because all the people that you actually now hang about with are all in the gym, and they don't want to buy a ticket for the show because they're going to get in for nothing.
Yeah.
So it is really hard for the guys that have been training a long time to still keep selling a volume of tickets. Now, Fudgy still sells like hundreds of tickets, and I'm sure it's down to that. And he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to buy a ticket to support Reese? You know, he's got a lot of things going for him, but he's self-managing really, really well. So
just to kind of wrap up, is there any fighters for your gym or round about Scotland that we should be keeping an eye out for in the near future?
If I started mentioning names, it would be clearly those that have been training out with the restrictions. They'll all get into trouble and get a 30 grand fine slapped on them with the COVID cops. I have not seen a Scottish fighter with any confidence that could say he's heading for the big time, but only because we haven't seen any Scottish fighters. We've not seen them out. We've not seen them under pressure, and it doesn't matter what you've got in the gym. If you don't see them under pressure, you could be blown in the wind for all you know. So I don't want to do that. Oh yeah, such and such, such and such. I know the quality of the guys that are just kind of behind Reese at our gym. I know the quality of the guys that James has got. The McIntosh brothers, Coonley, all these guys, Callum Murray. They're already achieving like good things. But with a year's absence out of competition, man, that's a lot. You know, we had guys in the Muay Thai scene that are at the end of their career that maybe, that was the end of my career. Or younger guys that had just transitioned to fighting A class, therefore becoming pro, that have had a year of not inactivity, but a year of non-competitive experience taken away from them. But they were at a level that they're going to be fighting against people who have maintained a year of competitive experience, either because they were training behind closed doors or they train in a different country, and that's the people they're up against. So I think at the moment we need to be fairly cautious. Again, it's back to this idea: it's team recovery, and then we'll start seeing who's still in the game.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense, to be fair, and it's a shame because Scotland was making some real big strides in MMA, and we were starting to catch up. But
Yeah.
I hope it'll still be the case once things start to loosen up, that the guys who are doing great things just stick at it and hopefully can keep up the momentum for Scottish MMA.
Aye, definitely. As soon as it's all clear, if the promoters can get on the shows, that would be awesome.
So thanks very much for your time today, Guy. Is there any social medias that you want to shout out, anything like that?
No, listen, I'm good. The Griphouse, everybody knows where we are. Everybody knows what we do. I hope if you're in the Glasgow area, come and see us. Likewise, you're out towards the kind of mid ground. James is obviously there, higher level, out in Bathgate. The D unit hopefully starting back up once we just get this all open again. Just shout out to the DNFT, the old crew.
So thanks very much, Guy, and I'll see you all later.
Yeah, take it easy, we're all right. Thanks for having me, man. Bye.